All right, what's up, guys? I wanted to give you guys an update today. It's Thursday, September the 29th. Let's go over a little bit of what's going on, not only in our Discord, but also how these, how today's action really looked. All right, so real quick, I wanted to share, had a pretty good day in our Discord. People profiting, following Way's awesome plays that he's been taking. He's been trying to call things out as much as possible. Chemo had, Palantir calls that he called out. And we even have one of our previous students that did quite well for himself. So around a G of profits there, etc. Right. So I do want to really quickly go in here, especially because this just came in as I'm recording this today, right now, right? So let's look. Quite a bit of money here. What we have is big money spending. Okay, this is still the October expiration. Quite a bit of money, and this is out of the money below puts, right? So we're going to use that for us. I'm going to put in the monocle because I think that's an interesting one. They did the same, not the same one, but they did another one, but you can see they got a lot of entries earlier in the day. And so they added to their position. At the end of the day, added another 1.2 because they wanted to likely average down a bit on that. We're still going to put big money on that one. And the previous scores were at 100, so I'm still going to put 100 on that. Notice that this one wasn't, because this one, if you think about it in terms of, let's see, it is out of the money, but you've got a fair amount of time, right? Let's see, these ones. Yeah. Let's see, why is this one not higher? 46. It is a little bit less out of the money. Okay. But yeah, the 48 is still considered an unusual score by our calculations. Okay, so 4.7 mil, right? They just added to their position, all came in after hours. Okay. So let's just let me real quick copy the message. SPY big money. All right. Well, that just shows us, right, that there's still bearish bias over the next couple months, at least through October, the next expiration. And then we did notice actually a big money, what came in for actually Apple for November, quite a large sum. I'll go into Apple a little bit today too. So let's go into this real quick. I was in my last video, I was talking about how we're making similar fractal movements, but it's very possible that right now, as we're moving, we're in an area where we may potentially chop it up a little bit, right? It is expected that when you think of it this way, you have, let's start from there. Whenever you break down below, right? So you have this big area right here. You'll test it, right? Test it. And when you do finally break, it'll suddenly become resistance to come back down. So that is exactly what we expect right here, because we've tested a few times. And this is essentially, it could be another rally back up, but we believe that it's already happened. So now we're breaking down below, and very likely coming down into this green area that we have drawn out from before. So, and that is also what big money, I do believe, is expecting. But in terms of liquidity of the options, and this is more of an ICT theory that I'm still trying to wrap my head around a little bit better. But basically, if we really are headed further down, this big liquidity grab right here, right, is similar to this one. And so we do believe that we probably at the highest are coming back maybe up toward this range before in due time we do continue further down. Right now, I don't necessarily think we're going to go down too fast because I think the market's already reacted quite a bit, but there are some what they consider black swan events, global situations that potentially could cause, the markets to suffer quite a bit. One important thing to notice and understand is that the dollar index has been quite important in what's going on. Let me do this real quick. I'm going to put the dollar on the top, and on the bottom, we're just going to put SPY. And we're going to compare them on a daily basis here, right? In our class, we talk about how, we'll do last 5 days, actually, last 5 days and last 5 days. All right, so you can see in the last couple days, right? This should be lined. It's not lined up. Okay, it's because the dollar index up here doesn't stop over time, right? Here we'll add extended hours to kind of add a little more line up. Somebody does know how to make trading view line up perfectly for me on these two, that'd be awesome. But okay, so it's due to the fact that the dollar index doesn't stop from day to day, and then we have after hours and pre-market for SPY. So they don't match up perfectly, but here I've done my best to do that. And what you can notice is, right, when the dollar goes up, we go down, right? Same with here. And then when the dollar comes down, which is what just happened recently, dollars come down, we start to have some rallies. But here's, you notice we start to struggle a little bit here in SPY. Let's add in our VIX. Talk a little bit about how the volatility index right now, we're still above 30. So there's still downside to come. Until we break down below 30, we're kind of in a fear situation. And actually understand here too that we did reject off 35, but we still kind of have a bit headed up. Are we in a head and shoulders formation? It's hard to tell with the VIX right now. Just because fear into the markets can happen, quite quickly. So just be aware, keep an eye on this. What I generally would do is put some alerts for yourself above and below. So when they do break, it gives you an indication of where the markets potentially could be headed. Apple, let me take off the double. Let me do this and add on. So one of the things that I've been trying to understand a little bit better, I'm by no means an expert on this specific strategy. This is one that Cut It Up and Way have been using in the Discord and trying to teach us, right? And what it does is it helps us map out essentially what, the theory is that big money is the only one that's actually creating these candles. And they have algorithms set up to do certain things in order to maximize their profits as a market maker. What does that mean? Well, ultimately it means that they, especially with how our orders for options end up being filtered through, they have payment for order flow, meaning that what we purchase, they see before anything happens anyway. And as they see where the money is, so for example, here's a quick example of, a big drop because of, in this situation, we have, bad news or any sort of reason for the markets to drop. And suddenly everybody down here is bearish, right? And what that also means is that all of their stop losses are actually above it. So what the market does is the market brings it back into and takes out all of those people. And once we start to rise again, that's where the bulls, especially the retail bulls, start to get in and say, hey, we're going back up, because we're retesting certain things. And that's where then their stop losses are put down below. And so the market maker does their best to liquidate things as much as possible to, especially if they do have a certain direction that is expected. I was saying in the Discord, it's almost like a FU to everybody of, we know where the money is, so we're going to go sap out all that money from where we can see it. And, for example, I understood with this that, we actually came back up toward this, and I actually took puts for Apple and opened up quite nicely green because of it. So, and keep in mind, it kept going, but I'm happy with the fact that we already broke previous lows, because generally they'll look for setting things up, and a very, this is almost like a strat type of example, but you can imagine that's where our broadening formations kind of start to come from, because imagine you start somewhere and then the liquidity is always right below. So, we think we're going up there, and so they get the liquidity down now. And then suddenly they see, hey, we're going further down. So, they swing it the other direction to grab the liquidity above. And when you start to take a look at this in terms of how the markets take out, prices as well, even if it had a direction to go to. So right now we're headed back down towards certain areas where previous liquidity is. And that's kind of what's been going on. So anytime there's a peak, there's liquidity right below it. And there's sometimes some above it, depending on, I would believe what orders ended up being put in throughout those months and weeks. But, options market does influence how prices move to an extent, because the options market, market makers still have to hedge their positions overall. In here, I noticed that when you have these diamonds that show up, that means there's a gap up or gap down. The arrows, I'm still trying to figure out exactly what the notation means. So again, if you guys want to help me out with that too, I'm happy to have those conversations and we can all learn a little bit about this together. There is, it was after observing the people who use ICT and these concepts within the Discord, I think it'd be silly to ignore what they have to say. And there is some truth to, the way that these work. I often try to draw certain, ICT predictions based upon their principles. And often to me, it seems like, oh, they're trying to screw over this group. Okay. So if I were to say right now, they want to screw over the bears right now, they're going to bring the price up here, up here, up here, or even possibly up here if they needed to. And there is still actually potentially some liquidity up here that they could go up toward, but that's a very large move. 20 points, I don't believe is going to happen. I think we're right now headed further down, and it's going to continue to make the lower type of liquidity grabs. So here, I still think we could come back up toward maybe 148 type of situation before headed further down. The way that they say ICT works is it's an algorithmic thing. The computers are taking care of this. They see where the money is and they push the money around so that they can hit people's stop losses, take that money and kind of run with it. Because again, the markets are it's a zero-sum game. For them to win, you must lose. And that's why they have all these things set up, like the payment for order flow and things like that to take advantage of the situation. Real quick back to SPY though. We're right back at the bottom. If you notice, Apple hadn't quite attacked their previous bottom, but here, we're peaking down below, but I wouldn't be surprised to see this turn into some sort of broadening formation before we do finally pick a direction and head out. Especially though, I do want to point out, we are quite fearful in the markets already right now too. In the past, in my previous video, I did pull this up ready for you guys. So go ahead and take a look there. But the fear readings in terms of the VIX, all right, we're getting close to what you could consider peak fear, not exactly peak. We're close to the fear that we experienced, I want to say around here. Okay, so there actually is a chance that we reverse before we potentially head back down, give the fear readings a little bit more relaxation. That is, I would say for the bulls, the best case scenario right now. with interest rates, with currencies crashing, with you know, energy crisis, all these different things that are happening, there is a lot of economic turmoil poised to happen. So we'll see. They also said that the UK just turned back on the money printer, and that overall could create some sort of relief. But keep in mind, that's not quite the same as the Fed turning on the money printer over here. And that's actually what they are saying is if the Fed does start to decide to pivot, we could see a rally back up, simply due to the fact that that means you know, they want the economy, you know, they need to bring back demand, they need the economy to run better, and as a result, they're actually going to relax on what they previously said was going to happen. Wherever that happens, we'll have to see. You know, that's why we keep an eye out for those Fed meetings and what they have to say. All right, that's pretty much what I had to talk about here. I hope you guys found that useful. If you guys haven't, and you already have been listening, if you're not in our Discord, go ahead and join. There are some free resources for you guys to use, and of course, you know, there are additional things, you know, that you can check out in the description below, and subscribe. I'm going to try to do my best to, you know, add more and more of these videos as I go. Obviously, sometimes life takes over, and I do my best to try to fit these in for you guys. So please let me know. And again, good luck with your trades.